Shindig. Hey guys, another TheoryInk Thursday. Shoot, I'm gonna have to like run away right at the beginning of the stream because I ran out of coffee. Well, hey, so welcome. I'm just gonna be spending this next little bit in the beginning just to kind of give you guys an update where I'm at with everything on TheoryInk. Maybe a little update on Index too, which is a very exciting thing, guys. I want to like stress that on every single stream. One, because I obviously want people to see what the Index is all about, and two, I really love it. It's like a huge part of my life right now, so obviously I want to share with everybody. But that's not why you're here. So it's another TheoryInk Thursday, so we're going to be still working on the video. It takes a while to do the research on these videos. That's why 8 months ago is the last time I put out a video. That's 7 months and 3 weeks I've been researching. No, not at all. But no, I just wanted to, you know, the reason being that TheoryInk Thursday is the whole thing is just because of the nature of, like, I really want to make sure I dedicate more time to TheoryInk. It's such a huge part of, like, my life. It's not like I've stopped looking at all these cool, crazy conspiracy theories and or pseudosciences or all these wild things that cause me to have theories and want to share those. It's just, you know, it's a lot of work. And I always put it off. I go, you know what? Index is a priority. Paying for my mortgage is a priority. Forget it. So that's why TheoryInk Thursdays exist. So I have a day dedicated to this, and if I live stream, I'm held accountable. At least in my mind. That's how it works. So, still working on the ESP / Panpsychism. I think more focused on ESP side of things. I often will let the research kind of dictate where. I feel like the music is really loud. This is why we go live. No edits. Oh, let me turn down the music. This is wild. Alright, but yeah, so I'm still focusing on the ESP, the statistical sort of data that supports it, like the experiments. Heavily influenced by The Conscious Universe by Dean Radin. Fantastic fella. He's like the Mad Max of scientists, in my opinion. For the skeptic. Like, one of the things I love about Dean Radin, he's obviously, he's a very qualified scientist, but he's very specifically wanting to make sure that we understand what the data means from ESP research all the way back to the 1800s. So, you know, he knows when to like include data and then all that. And one of the things I love that he explains the various experiments that ESP has, or that you know, scientists and mostly universities and things like that. Obviously, there's not huge budgets except for the military, which is a whole other subject, but that he has to explain that there's not going to be, and there should be no expectation that if you sit somebody down, whether they claim they're psychic or not, you can't have a reasonable expectation that they're going to start suddenly picking up on ESP events. In other words, like if you do this classic example you might have seen in Ghostbusters where they have the cards with the wavy lines and the triangle, and then they say, what shape am I holding up? And they have to guess it, and then the dude shocks him. Bill Murray shocks the dude. Great scene. But anyway, but it's not to be expected that there's going to be a significant, noticeable difference in people being able to psychically pick up on what... well, there's something... Door? Who goes to my door? Honestly. But no, there shouldn't be any kind of reasonable expectation that, you know, that, sorry, distracted. That's what happens when you go live. That they'll get it right, like, significantly within that one session. So what the real data suggests is more like baseball statistics. And he uses that example in the book too, that you have to look at like a plethora of data. Like you have to like literally look at like a significant amount of overall data, like hundreds if not thousands of examples, and measure that against the chance factor. So in other words, if you have 4 cards and it says you know, yeah, and you have to guess which card they're holding up, Ghostbusters style. Well, there's a 25% chance that you'll get it right. Well, what's crazy is, and this is why I'm doing the video. What's crazy is that am I doing Trump hands? The crazy thing, that's like the worst Trump impression. But anyway, what's crazy is that the statistical data that he provides in this book is like almost always above chance. It's almost like in the 32 percentile. So if you have like those four, like I said, if you have 25% of getting it right, it's always in like the 32s, 33s. And here's what's crazier too, is to use the baseball analogy, and I'm using that in the video script as well, is that Mickey Mantle is the example that he uses, has obviously a higher statistical chance to get a home run, or actually to get a base hit is I think what he uses. And that shows up also in people who claim to be psychic, or at least have some kind of history of getting him right, is that there's like a not great, not huge, but there's a big chunk, like now they're in like the 38 percentile, 40 percentile. But remember, that's always above chance. Yeah, there are some sessions where it's below, like 16%. But if you look at all the statistical data, it's almost a little bit above. So it's just that tiny little data point that's consistent, mostly, for the most part. That's weird, isn't that? Like, that's like, how do you explain that little blip? Like, you would think it'd be all over the place, and it would average out to, like, I don't know, sometimes maybe it's even like 50. Well, I guess it'd still be 25%. Like, sometimes it'd be lower than 25%, sometimes it'd be higher than 25%. Do this sort of thing. But no, it's always like, here's the chance 25% model. The data is always like up here. In fact, I'll show you real quick before I start working. Here's like one example. 50. I don't want to. So he does these things called 95%. I'm not going to get into like the major nerdy stuff, but like, check this out. And I'll put this in the videos too. But there's like, you see the chance line is that little dotted line. I don't know how much it's going to show up in. Oh, well, yeah, because I did it. My focus is going to be way off. But this percentile, 25 percentile line is right here. But almost all of the data points are above it. How do you explain that? I don't know. You know, I always remain skeptical. It's always going to be a maybe. But crazy enough to do a video. Alright. I'm going to start working now, so I appreciate you a little sticking around for the intro and all that good stuff. Yeah, I'm just going to start working. So the first thing I'm actually going to work on, I really need to get better at social media. So I'm actually going to work on some YouTube shorts. Stick around. Stay with me. Happy you're here. Actually, the first thing I'm going to go get coffee. But, yeah, so when I come back, I'll start working on YouTube shorts. I'll just kind of edit old videos. Like I said, I have to, I mean, if you're not doing that, what are you doing? You don't exist if you're not on social media. Okay? You know what? I'll be right back. All right, we're back. I'm gonna put on this thing. I'm gonna watch it, so you're gonna be in the middle of it. I don't know. I should have looked at the way to see if everybody's actually watching, but I'll just keep talking as if there are people here. So, yeah, I was in the middle of this pretty cool video actually. This guy was talking about who this guy. I wish I could. Ahmad Stuck. I'm sure I'm messing it up, but the channel is Tom Bellew. I think he's a filmmaker, is what he introduced himself as. But they're just talking about AI, and I'm editing a video about AI. So there you go. Keep you entertained while I work.
That's straight.
And it's how it's funny. This is actually how I work too. Is like I always have a video playing while I'm working. So it's like, hey, just welcome to my world, I guess. Bye.
It's a straight line. This is kind of what you're talking about. Like,
what happened? I think people need to understand, because
I think it's the iPhone and Pornhub, probably
Correct.
a combination of those two.
You put a computer in the hands of young men and let them see naked females.
Oh, when I'm editing, I have to do a lot of pausing, so I apologize for that in advance. But we're here. This video is about the big new trend with artificial. So I'm just cutting up one of my old videos and put it in vertical format, which as a filmmaker that kills me, but that's what the kids want. This video is about the big new trend. This video is about the big new trend with artificial intelligence, particularly AI creating visual art. So just cutting down to get out in our minutes. It's gonna plug YouTube Shorts. I'm gonna try to do a bunch of these. This video is about the big new trend with artificial intelligence, particularly AI creating visual. More interesting. Just to make it. Oh shoot! I'm supposed to. So I need to go 1080 by 1920 because that's what the kids want. I'm not better. You're better. I'm not better. Well, that's how did I do this before? I'll be smart, but see, I should have. I'm not prepared to do this one. I know I had a logos and all this sort of stuff in another project file, and I don't want to look for the project file, so I'm just gonna bring it all into here. So I gotta get my schlogo. You gotta have that branding. You gotta brand your brand, Schmangela. I'm gonna play the scenes.
More in a single session than 100 years ago they would have seen in their entire lives. These are not small changes, and they have huge neurological implications, especially in the years of brain development.
Yeah, and this is why it's so important to shield our kids at this point, because the influences are going to be insane. Like, I was having a discussion with a very prominent technologist, and he's like, yeah, I'm pretty sure that my child's first crush is going to be an AI.
Guaranteed.
What?
Guaranteed.
For most people, it was actors, so we're already prone
Never thought
to
of that.
You'll have
that
your own
unattainable
AI.
distant
Kid's first
thing.
crush
No, it's
will be an
in
AI?
your pocket.
It's in your pocket. It's always with you. It's always kind
Getting
of
to
there.
know you.
Again, as you said, a large part of society like to draw in on itself as a result of that, and that is a bit dangerous. Do they then go out into the streets? Are you seeing a Butlerian jihad kind of thing, like in Dune? I don't know.
Larry and Jihad?
In Dune, there was this concept of the Butlerian jihad, where as you had autonomous AIs... Butlerian, yeah.
Got it. Yeah.
They rose up against them and said, no more AI agents.
That's right. The book opens with that, right?
Yes.
That you can never again make a human-like
Robot.
AI, something like that.
Again, this is kind of a thing, extension of the Luddism kind of thing, but most people will be happy with their AIs because their AIs actually listen to them. I use GPT-4 as a therapist. I've got a therapist too, because this is hard. Why? Because it never judges me unless I tell it to judge me.
You tell it to judge you sometimes?
Sometimes you're like...
Do you really?
Yeah, I mean, like, come on.
What?
Give me some positive constructive feedback. And it will listen and give positive constructive feedback.
Did you give it a personality? Did you?
By the way, for anybody that does use ChatGPT, I just saw this really cool video that it opened a lot of the door. I haven't done it this particular trick yet. But what you can do is, like, let's say you're writing a resume, or like you're writing a paper, or you're writing whatever. Tell it to ask you questions. Say, hey, I'm writing up a resume. Ask me questions that an employer might ask me. And then you can get more specifics in your little context window. But that's actually kind of an interesting concept, because a lot of times it'll help you it's almost like a writing prompt. And it'll say, instead of just giving, what should I write my resume about? They're just like, I don't know, do that. Instead of like, list me questions on what as if you're an employer, or as if you're interviewing me for an article or whatever. Just something to think about. That's it. Little tidbit.
You have to like imagine you're a therapist that's like.
Yes. You give it the
Yeah,
instructions
the
and
same
it just adapts. And then you give it the things. You opt out with GDPR from it, training the model further, because otherwise the model will be even weirder listening to my complaining. And it will come back to you with whatever, and soon it will be able to talk. And it will have full vocal control. And these models will proliferate at that level because you're not stopping. The models are just going to get better and better and better. So you've got this crisis, but maybe it'll be insulated. But I think, again, if you look forward, like after the incubation and the contagion and the spread kind of phase, there are only two paths here. Complete control by existing structures and Star Trek utopia. I think those are the two options that we have, because organizations look at this technology and they're like, this is really cool. We can optimize our objective functions to sell more ads or to control the people and kind of keep them going. Do you really trust politicians with this technology? No, even if it is an arms race. Because again, you won't know what's going on, because do you have the defenses to defend against what's coming? Personally, for your kids, for this, for everything. We've already had the social media age. It wasn't really social, much of the media, right? This is something new that's coming now. Where you can't tell this from a human, except for the fact it's better, it's more convincing. And you can use that to create a human colossus and solve all the problems of the world, and we all come together. Or you can use that to get everyone into their basements, and cut off from the world.
All right, I want to paint a very beautiful story for people, and I want them to understand. Look, I don't think this is a completely controllable thing, but you said earlier that there's opportunity in any crisis, and I will say that the biggest opportunities come in moments of disruption.
Yep.
And the reason I want to lay out the problem set is because I really believe that certainly at the individual level, if you're thoughtful enough, you are going to be able to navigate your way through this. So dear listener or watcher, if you're here on YouTube, I'm telling you right now, if you're thoughtful enough, you will get through this. And you have a chance to get through this better than when you started, but you have to be aware of what the dangers are. People have to really lay things out before them, look at them so they know, okay, this is how I'm going to isolate myself from this potential problem. This is how I'm going to avoid this. This is how I'm going to leverage that. Okay, your story is one of the most incredible stories of how one uses AI. You have both a personal example and then obviously as the founder of Stability AI, is obviously incredible. But talk to me about your son, because this was when AI was a lot less useful than it is now, and it was still life-changing.
Yeah, so 12 years ago, my son was diagnosed with autism when he was 2 years old. It's very, very severe. Scratching out wall till his fingernails bled. And
Jesus.
They said there's no cure, there's no treatment. We don't really know what causes it. Anyone on this call on this listening knows that's kind of the case. So I was a hedge fund manager at the time. I was lucky enough to kind of be one, quite young. And I was like, well, I've got to do something about it. So I switched to advising hedge funds and then building a little AI team and doing AI with old school AI, natural language processing, to analyze all the autism literature and what could possibly be a cause. Now, is this scientific? No, it's an N of one thing a father does for his son. We'll be publishing some of the results of it soon. But it focused down on GABA glutamate balance in the brain. When you pop a Valium, your GABA goes up, you chill out. When you got a glutamate spike, that's when you can't focus and your legs tapping all the time. And there are multiple things that cause it, but a lot of kids with ASD seem to have that. And there are some papers around that, etc. Because how could you focus if you're in that condition all the time? So you can't learn to speak, you can't do that. So it was, how do we reduce this through drug repurposing? Built a knowledge graph-based system to do that and figure out which drugs could potentially help reduce the glutamate, help increase the GABA.
How are you using AI for this?
So this was kind of the mass natural language processing.
All right, gotta edit.
This video is about the big new trend with artificial intelligence, particularly
I should do is put these on top, maybe like in a net. Or hold on. Look at that.
Looking at all the literature, because the same treatment would make 30% of kids better and 30% of kids worse. And so it's trying to figure out the outcome was the same. A cold is caused by lots of different things, but the thing that caused it could be so different. And so conventional medicine and medication kind of failed that. So I worked with neurologists, worked with other psychiatrists and others, and tried different medical combinations of off-prescription drugs and other things to try and make his brain calmer. So then he could use applied behavioral analysis and others to reconstitute speech. And, you ended up going to mainstream school. I think it worked. I told people about it and they're like, you're not a doctor. And I was like,
That was the response?
Well, yeah. I mean, look, anyone who's listening to this, like, am I saying I have a cure for autism? No. I'm saying I'm a dad who tried my best and I saw results. But in order for something to become medicine, you actually have to go through a proper process. And so for me, that was building language models. That was making everything in the right structure. And then we can organize the world's autism literature, making it accessible and useful. Any parent or anyone, you may have someone in your family that has a neurological condition, Alzheimer's, so many people around the world have the same problems. Wouldn't it be wonderful if they could just find what the latest knowledge is and also the things that could work and have a holistic approach to this? And until we have this technology, you can never get there, which is one of the main drives for me to want to build this technology and do it in a transparent order. But you shouldn't have to trust me and what I say about this, because again, my journey as a parent is the same as anyone who's got a child with ASD. It's the same as anyone who has a family member that gets multiple sclerosis or cancer. Our systems are not good enough right now to bring us the information we need unless we find an amazing doctor and an amazing group. But now, with MedPalm, with our own models, with other things, we can finally be at that point where we're never lost, when we can say what could work. So an example is clonazepam. It's prescribed at a 1,000 microgram dose for anxiety. At a 5 microgram dose, my son could sing because it potentiated.
And he was nonverbal.
He was nonverbal. And at 20 micrograms, it stops working. It's $6 a year intervention. Because this is the way that neurotransmitters work. So like when you pop a Nitol and antihistamine to go to sleep, right? What it does is it floods a whole bunch of neurotransmitters, including the hateful neurotransmitter. And that's the one that makes you sleepy. But then other ones give you dry mouth and other things. Something like Remeron in a microdose just triggers H1. And it'll knock you out without any side effects. But it's just incredibly cheap, Understanding things like neurotransmitters is not something that most of us ever have to do. Unless you're super hyper-focused on it for years, because I was like, I need to figure out my son's neurotransmitters. I'm talking to all the top doctors, and I'm lucky because I have access to them. What do I do now? So that's when I realized that, this AI was a big thing. And actually, one of the really interesting things is, why couldn't he talk? It's because he had too much noise in his brain. So you've got cup. A cup can mean a cup, or it can mean cup your hands, or cup your ears, or World Cup. He couldn't form those connections because his brain was too noisy. And so he did applied behavioral analysis, which is teaching you this is a cup, this is a cup, this is a cup, with gamification to reconstruct those after his brain calmed down.
All right, here we go. This video is about the big new trend with artificial intelligence, particularly AI creating visual.
All right. Oh! Look at that close up. Golly. I think I discolored my skin. What's going on there? I look like a zombie. God. I know I had a bout of insomnia. I don't remember if it was when I did this though, but horrible. It's because I don't have this luscious beard. Oh well, who gives a crap?
It's actually very similar to this generation of AI. We described earlier how it learned principles. It's called the latent space.
Similar it is to dreaming and even lucid dreaming.
And
let's get into it.
Because it understands the principle of cuppiness. So you type in World Cup or cup of ears, it gives you
let's get into it. There are a few
Similarly, the language models do the same. Again, it pays attention to what's important. Attention is all you need with the original paper. And again, forms this latent space of the meaning of cup within the sentence. So when it says cup, it's like, well, this is going to be a
Transition real
World Cup, or this is going to be that. But not actively. Again, it's just a bunch of ones and zeros, a single file. And so I think that's why all this new generative AI really resonated with me. And I realized this could be the real thing that unlocks humanity or controls them forever, one of the two. Yeah, so that's kind of some of the personal story behind this. Because again, like, I don't have a cure for autism. I worked as well as I can with my son with the technology at hand. However, I think that with the building blocks we're building now, us and others, there's the potential to have personalized care and knowledge for everyone who's dealing with ASD, for everyone who's dealing with multiple sclerosis or any of these other conditions, where they say there's no cure because our medical system treats people as a Gerdic. And what does ergotic and ergotic mean? It means 1,000 tosses of the coin, the same as 1,000 coins tossed at once.
There are a
That's why
few
everyone gets 500
reoccurring
milligrams
glitches,
of
if you will,
paracetamol.
with the art
All right.
that the AI generates, and I want to focus on two of them. One is hands. Hands.
Cut out a little bit. So you get down to 60.
Hands. Hands, for whatever reason, is a lot to ask for from any one of these AI generators. From mid-journey to stable diffusion. But why?
Let's try this. Don't you hate it on YouTube Shorts? Like, stuff gets cut off. Textures.
From mid-journey to stable diffusion. But why? Why hands? Now, to be fair, it's not like I can draw hands, but it seems strange that the AI gets hung up on them. Now, that's the first one. The second one is text. AI does not do well with text. You type in
Take out the.
you type in anything, it basically stroking itself. It's crazy. Now, if you know anything itself, itself. Now, if you know anything about lucid dreaming, you know where I'm going with this. These two attributes are identical to dreaming.
Yeah, I could just cut it off there. I have to get to 60. Yeah, well, shoot, that's the thing. So I'm gonna go ahead. I'll schedule this. Hopefully it picks it up as a short. I wish they just had a check thing on YouTube that's like, is this a short or not? But instead you have to do this like, it's under 60, that sort of, whatever. I'm not gonna complain. Watch the video.
It's why a lot of people have a cytochrome P450 abnormality, kind of mutation in their liver. It means you process codeine into morphine quicker, or fentanyl into death.
I came here to
Yet we don't do a
listen to
basic
YouTubers
genetic test on
complain.
that. Because our system has to treat us as numbers, because we could never scale intelligence. We could never scale expertise. So, yeah, like I said, that's some of the story behind that.
Yeah, see, this is where this starts to get interesting because I think about this a lot in myself. So I can paint the nightmare scenario of somebody collapsing inside of themselves, having AI friends instead of real friends, and how quickly that can get distorted and become a real problem. And yet at the same time, I'm building exactly that. And the reason that I'm building that is because of the promise of AI and the incredible things that we can do as we begin to recognize more patterns and figure out, okay, where does this really go? So my wife had a tremendous health bout. It's been a while now, thankfully, but at one point I was afraid she was going to die. Her fingernails were breaking, her hair was falling out, she couldn't eat. It was just really, really, really bad. And it ends up being her microbiome, but of course it took forever to diagnose that was a problem. She was about to get immunotransglobulin transfusions.
Yep.
And I was just like, I was like, something's wrong. I don't think this is the right answer. I don't want to do that. Let's stop. Let's try to figure this thing out. And so we pump the brakes. We start researching the microbiome, looking into that, testing things. And the thought of having AI to be able to say, okay, let's take genetic data and read the genetic database that's ever been collected, all of that.
Yeah.
Let's look at all the different foods, responses, match all that together. And if you can get that level of pattern recognition, and now you can engage AI, I think because part of the problem is your microbiome is changing daily.
That's
It's
one.
probably changing hourly. And if you were able
we
to
kinda do
track
other.
all of that and say, okay, with your genetics,
I'll do 2 or
with
3 and then I'll
your
move on to,
current
like,
state of your
working on the
microbiome, here's
ESP
exactly
stuff.
what you should be eating. Maybe even with nutrients from food grown in.
Let's see what this is.
Like a lot of you, I have been absolutely blown away with what you could do with text prompted art. And I immediately went to town, making everything from Christopher Walken as Beetlejuice to Diogenes at a shopping mall and even Star Trek Jesus. My favorite one. Now, one of the first things you notice when partnering up with an AI is that it's not exactly perfect. In fact, it can sometimes be downright creepy, but here is where it gets eerily creepy.
Good start.
Many moons ago, I used to train myself to lucid dream. Now, for those that don't know what lucid dreaming is, it's essentially training yourself during your waking hours to recognize when you're dreaming in your sleeping hours. Ergo, you can eventually develop tools to actually control your dreams. Imagine the best and most freeing. What lucid dreaming is, it's essentially training yourself during your waking hours to recognize when you're dreaming in your sleeping hours. Ergo, you can eventually develop tools to actually control your dreams. Imagine the best and most free VR experience you can imagine. Zuckerberg. Now, one of the ways you can train yourself is by looking for a book, a clock, or anything with text or numbers. You'll see pretty quickly that the words or numbers are all jumbled. It's crazy. It's like they're incoherent and often have these weird repeating attributes, just like AI art. What? Art.
That's a good video. Now, is it under 60 seconds? Time will tell. If I can put, I think I was going to cut this part off.
Many moons ago, I used to train myself to lucid dream. Now, for those that don't know what lucid dreaming is, it's essentially training yourself during your waking hours to recognize when you're dreaming in your sleeping hours. Ergo, you can eventually develop tools to actually control your dreams. Imagine the best and most free VR experience you can imagine. Zuckerberg. Now, one of the ways you can train yourself is by looking for a book, a clock. Now,
Alright, so that. Let's see where that puts us. Yeah, so we
like a lot of you, I have been absolutely blown away with what you could do with text prompted art, and I immediately went to town, making everything from Like a lot of you, I have been absolutely blown away with what you could do with text prompted art. Immediately prompted art immediately went to town, making everything from Christopher Walken as Beetlejuice to Diogenes at a shopping mall and even Star Trek Jesus. That's like my favorite one. Jesus.
Star Trek Jesus.
That's like my favorite one.
Star Trek Jesus. This is an old version too. I think this is like Midjourney 3. How long ago this video is.
Jesus. Now, one of the first things you notice when partnering up with an AI is that it's not exactly
I'm going to cut there.
it's not exactly perfect.
Let's cut there. Not that I'm medically. I know there's a way to do it. Keyboard shortcuts. Alt M, nope. Control N, nope. Shift N, nope. Control Shift N. Forget it! Oh yeah, I know I can do this over here. I think. I don't have it set up. See if that makes sense.
it's not exactly shopping mall
Continuous
and
and
even
flow.
Star Trek Jesus. It's not that it's not Jesus. It's not,
Yeah.
and even Star Trek Jesus. It's not exactly even Star Trek Jesus. It's
Jesus is cut off.
that's like my favorite one. That's like my favorite one.
Yeah, I'll keep that.
Favorite one. Now, that's like my favorite. Star Trek Jesus. That's like my favorite one. It's not exactly perfect. In fact, it can sometimes
Got the filler.
it can sometimes be downright creepy. But here is where it gets eerily creepy. Many moons ago,
Cut off.
but here is where it gets eerily creepy. Many moons ago, I used to. It can sometimes be downright creepy. But here is where it gets eerily creepy. Many moons ago, I used to train myself to lucid dream. Now, for those that don't know what lucid dreaming is, it's essentially training yourself during your waking hours to recognize when you're dreaming.
That's the problem. I use so much different music. This is already driving me nuts, and I hate it. Aside from going into the original, which I probably deleted, obviously, I don't keep it very long. Just going into the original one and just wiping out the music. That's it. Definitely. Workflow sucks. I hate focusing on workflow. So here, let's listen to a YouTuber complain for a bit. So I make a video. There's you can see here, right there. There's like a whole bunch, three tracks that I'm using, audio and video. By the time I'm done making the video, there's like 1 billion tracks. Okay, which you guys will see if I keep doing these TheoryInk Thursdays. But the problem is I want to cut those down and just do some YouTube shorts that I can just throw out there. And I don't want to spend a whole lot of time doing YouTube shorts. I don't. But it's so necessary. Like, if you want to actually grow, you got to do it. Poor me. Boo-hoo. But problem is, obviously, when I'm cutting this, the music changes and it gets all over the place. And I hate that, like, jarring experiences. So the best way to do this is to go back into the original project file and cut the YouTube short there. Oh, I'm complaining about it. I should just do that, right? I should just do that. So, like, every YouTube video going forward. The problem is I don't have all my project files from all the other videos. That's the problem. So I guess what I should do is stop complaining. And just from this point on, cut like 3 YouTube shorts or whatever I can when I make a new video. But internet, what about the old videos? That's so much content just sitting there. It's gonna be janky AF, but guess I. Whoa. Like, I'm going insane. Okay. Alright, I'm just gonna finish this. But I know what to do going forward. I'm gonna finish it. I'm gonna see how, like, crazy it is to, like, extract music from it. Maybe I could, I don't know. We'll see what happens. Hours to recognize when there's some, like, audio transitions I can do. It's just, brain doesn't like crappy things. Okay. Dreaming in your sleeping hours. Now, one of the ways you can train yourself hours to recognize when you're dreaming in your sleeping hours. Now, one of the ways you can train yourself is by looking for a book, a clock, or anything with text or numbers. You'll see pretty quickly that the words or numbers are all jumbled. It's crazy. I'm sure there's nothing cut here. Eerily creepy.
Here is where it gets eerily creepy. Many moons ago. Many moons ago, I used to train myself to lucid dream. Now, for those that don't know what lucid dreaming is, it's essentially training yourself during your waking hours to recognize when you're dreaming in your sleeping hours. Now, one of the ways you can train yourself is by looking for a book, a clock, or anything with text or numbers. You'll see pretty quickly that the words or numbers are all jumbled. It's crazy. It's like they're incoherent and often have these weird repeating attributes, just like AI art.
Let's see. What can I cut?
Like a lot of you, I have been absolutely blown away with what you could do with text prompted art. Immediately went to town, making everything from Christopher Walken away with what you could do with text prompted art. Immediately went to town, making everything from Christopher Walken as Beetlejuice to Christopher Walken as Beetlejuice. Making everything from Christopher Walken as Beetlejuice to Diogenes at a shopping mall, and even Beetlejuice to
Diogenes
mall, and even as Beetlejuice, even Star Trek Jesus. That's like my favorite one. It's not exactly perfect. Many moons ago, I used to train myself to lucid dream. Now, for those that don't know what lucid dreaming is, it's essentially training yourself during your waking hours to recognize when you're dreaming in your sleeping hours. Now, one of the ways you can train yourself is by looking for a book, a clock, or anything with text or numbers. You'll see pretty quickly that the words or numbers are all jumbled. It's crazy. It's like they're incoherent and often have these weird or numbers. They're incoherent and often have...
Oh, this whole time, look at this. I forgot my marker moves with... Gosh, dang it. There's a setting I don't have on here. I have this much I can work with. But yet, I'm a jerk, and I didn't... Gosh, dang it. So what happens is I'm like constantly yelling at myself and... Poor me. This is what I have. These are the conversations I have with myself in my head while I'm editing. You guys just get to be a part of it. You amateur. Alright, well, there we go. So I'm under 60. I'll just do 59 to be safe. Well, no, I remember this was 60. So as long as I'm behind this, it's fine. So let's go through. Let's watch it again.
Like a lot of you, I have been absolutely blown away with what you could do with text prompted art. Immediately went to town, making everything from Christopher Walken as Beetlejuice to Diogenes at a shopping mall, and even Star Trek Jesus. That's like my favorite one. It's not exactly perfect. Here is where it gets eerily creepy. Many moons ago, I used to train myself to lucid dream. Now, for those that don't know what lucid...
Maybe I could do the now, because that seems a little janky in that part. I think I say now. I say now every time. Now!
Many moons ago... Here is where it gets... Many moons eerily creepy. Here's where it gets eerily creepy. Gets eerily creepy. Many moons ago, I used to train myself to lucid dream. Now, for those that don't know what lucid dreaming is, it's essentially training yourself during your waking hours to recognize when you're dreaming in your sleeping hours. Now, one of the ways you can train yourself is by looking for a book, a clock, or anything with text or numbers. You'll see pretty quickly that the words or numbers are all jumbled. It's crazy. It's like they're incoherent and often have these weird repeating attributes, just like AI art.
Alright. Yeah, that's fine. I'm just gonna... I'll put the video back on, and I'm gonna have to add, fix the framing and stuff.
In that area, like it really may be
Yep.
that specific. And when you can find patterns in that sort of insane level of data, now you've really got something. And that's but one of the many areas where I think that this could be utterly transformational.
Yeah, I mean, like right now, the AIs are know-it-alls. You know, all graduates, but you have specialists. You'll have a nutritionist AI. You will have a microbiome AI. You will have a personal trainer AI. Like, why was Peloton successful? You know, attractive people shouting at you. You know, we could generate that now. Everyone suddenly gets that personalized to them. But more than that, it's not just the information being in this tiny model. You have retrieval augmented models and other things, which means these models now interact with existing data sets and knowledge sets. So you use something like Perplexity AI. It doesn't only answer your questions with GPT-4, it gives you references. So you can say, what about MAD? And it'll link to all of the things as it gives individual stuff. And this will only advance from here. So you can dig into as much depth as possible that you want with a whole team of people around you, even if you're by yourself. So you should never be alone again in terms of you can be connected to people like you in the same problem as you. We can build better teams, and all the information of the world is at your fingertips in a way that it was never before, including your own private information. So like one of my favorite apps, it does use some battery, is Rewind AI. It takes a screenshot of your MacBook screen every time it changes and OCRs it. And then it gives a timeline. So I can type in impact theory and it will look through everything that's ever been on my MacBook screen. It's all stored locally, and find where impact theory is on YouTube, or there's a picture of this mug, and it shows it in a timeline. So I can go back and I can see what I looked at before or after that.
What? Wow. So you can map your own sort of connective trees with whatever.
And what happens when you combine that with a language model? Everything you see on your screen stored locally with an open source language model, it creates the memex, and it sees what you've paid more attention to versus less attention. Again, they're dystopian versions of this. I'm talking about the utopian version, which is ADD me can finally remember what I was doing, what I was looking at, the context, the search tree as I was searching all these different things, clicking from place to place. And then you can set agents to go and recreate that journey and search all the other stuff that you didn't search. This is really positive because, again, how much of our life is done searching for knowledge, searching for information?
Should probably do subtitles, right? So let's take a quick break from this video. I'll tell you what, I'll even do this, and let's look for no, I'll keep the video.
That's relevant to us.
Talk to me about the paper, Attention is All You Need.
I
I've
have to look
heard
for
you and
how to
other people
do
bring this up multiple times. I haven't
subtitles,
read it,
'cause that's
but
like
this
a
is like the big
banger
breakthrough.
videos.
Yeah, this was the
What the kids
2017
want,
paper by the Google
subtitles.
team.
They all want subtitles.
And basically what it was is that classical big data took big data and then Facebook extrapolated it so that when it found 17 pieces of information about you, it could target you with ads. That was the classical big data thing. They even create shadow profiles of you. So when you go on Facebook, they actually got a shadow profile that they then connect to your real profile.
What's the shadow profile?
Like, it's like, what if there was a Tom on YouTube, on Facebook? Because there's all these connections to this unknown person. And then it just fills you in automatically. That's why it figures out your preferences so quickly without listening to you. So Attention is All You Need said that not all data is important.
Hey, how's it going, everyone?
Quick
In
break.
this video, I'm going to explain how you can easily create and add subtitles to your videos in Premiere Pro, and additionally, how you can automatically create SRT files and import them in your
So I knew
Premiere
how to
Pro
do the old
projects.
school way,
All right,
but
so
there's
we
gotta
started
be a new
project
feature
in Premiere Pro, and I'm going to
everybody's
import my
using,
video. So I'm
unless
going to
it's,
click
like,
on this
directly
section,
into
import media to start,
YouTube now.
select the video,
I don't
and click
know,
on
such old
import.
man.
And then I'm going to click on the video file and drag it onto the timeline. Let's have a
Empty.
look. Hey everyone, my name is Tim. Nice. So now we can add subtitles to this video. So to create and add subtitles to your video, first thing you need to do is head over to Window and make sure that you select the text window. I'm going to click on this, and as you can see, the text window appeared in my project. Assuming you have the latest version of Adobe Premiere Pro, there are a couple of options you can consider choosing. For instance, you
guys
can
can
transcribe a
follow
sequence, you can
along.
create a new caption track, which is a manual way of adding subtitles.
All right, what did he say? I was put on like fast speed and then I repeat
And
it.
as you can see, the text window appeared in my project. My name is Tim. Nice. So now we can add subtitles to this video. So to create and add subtitles to your video, first thing you need to do is head over to Window and make sure that you select the text window. I'm going to click on this, and as you can see, the text window appeared in my project. Assuming you have the latest version of Adobe Premiere Pro, there are a couple of options you can consider choosing. For instance, you can transcribe a sequence, you can create a new caption track, which is a manual way of adding subtitles, and import captions from files such as an SRT file. And later on in the video, I'll show you how you can create and add one to your project. In this case, we're selecting transcribe sequence, and then you'll see a menu pop up. From here, you can select a language you speak in your video. In this case, it's English, so I don't need to change anything. You can also choose the audio tracks you want to have transcribed. In this case, I only use one audio track anyway, so it doesn't matter if I choose mix, which is all of them, or audio 1, which is the audio track number 1. And just so you know, if you use the in and out points, you can transcribe in certain section of your sequence, but in this case,
This is different than what you have
leave it as it is
now.
anyway project. In this case, we're selecting transcribe.
What I love the best is whenever I have to like look up something I have to do. You know, I've been editing videos forever. Obviously, there's like a certain thing. There's difference between editing a lot of these YouTube shorts and all these social media things, which I actually don't do a lot for clients. I'm usually making like commercials for their website or whatever. And so this stuff I've really only done for myself, like creating shorts, which is crazy. I think more companies would do it. But at any rate, I don't know what I'm saying anyway. Oh, I was gonna say that the funny thing is like how often, like I have like 20 plus years of experience, but I'm still listening. This guy's not that young, but I'm listening to like 10-year-olds tell me how to do videos. It's like, oh, click on this and this and that and the other. I'm like, thanks, little Billy. Yeah, just an aside.
Sequence, and then you'll see a menu pop up. From here, you can select, which is a manual way of adding subtitles. I'm gonna click on this, and as you can see, the text window
does it have that. Unmuted verbal. Oh, because it's muted. That's why. Translation. Do you want to enable auto translation for clips in sequence? Yes, please. Thank you. Automatically transcribe clips. Oh, do I have to have it automatically enabled? Enable separate speakers. No, don't do so. Okay. Okay, I guess. I've heard of this is AI. Well, AI is used around so much, but this is like one of the few features I haven't played around with that are new in the AI world. For me, but I hear good things. Sure, it seems like it takes a long time though. Oh, it's doing it for every little. Okay, I guess. Yeah, it's taking a while. Let's see what else.
appeared in my project. Assuming you have the latest version of Adobe Premiere Pro, there are a couple of options you can consider choosing. For instance, you can transcribe a sequence, you can create a new caption track, which is a manual way of adding subtitles, and import captions from files such as an SRT file. And later on in the video, I'll show you how you can create and add one to your project. In this case, we're selecting transcribe sequence, and then you'll see a menu pop up. From here, you can select a language you speak in your video. In this case, it's English, so I don't need to change anything. You can also choose the audio tracks you want to have transcribed. In this case, I only use one audio track anyway, so it doesn't matter if I choose mix, which is all of them, or audio 1, which is the audio track number 1. And just so you know, if you use the in and out points, you can transcribe in certain section of your sequence, but in this case, I want to transcribe it all, so I'm going to leave it as it is and click on transcribe. And now it's going to auto-transcribe your audio, and it's going to take a minute depending on the length of your sequence or selection. And after a moment, the transcription is finished, and you can find it back on the text and on the transcript. And if I play back the video, hey everyone, my name is Tim. As you can see, it follows it word for word. However, this is solely a transcript.
Once that sucker launches, as always, I appreciate you.
Head over to the CC icon, and when you click on it, you'll see another menu pop up. Now, as you can see, you can change the caption presets, you can change the format, the style, whatever you prefer, how many lines you want to have. For instance, if you want to have the subtitles as singular lines or stacked upon each other. Now, in this case, I'm not going to change anything I'm already content. You can change anything after the fact anyway, so all I need to do is click on create. And again, this can take a moment until it's finished. And now, as you can see, the subtitles are added to the video.
Alright, chill out, helpful YouTuber. Let me make another. I'll do this for the third one. Then this, put this guy here. Worry about that later. So, did it automatically delete it? I bet you didn't. Yep, it did not. Oh, I didn't delete this. That's why. Okay, cool. All right.
We've got a subtitle layer. You can see the subtitle in the video frame, and you can see everything on the left in the captions tab as well. Now let's play back the video. Hey everyone, my name is Tim. I just wanted to say a quick hi to everyone. Nice. As you can see, everything is in sync and everything should be pretty accurate.
Okay, you put it on the screen.
Head over to the CC icon, and when you're finished, and you can find it back on the text and on the transcript. And if I play back the video, hey everyone, my name is Tim. As you can see, it follows it word for word. However, this is solely a transcript. I want to turn this into subtitles. So to make this happen, head over to the CC icon, and when you click on it, you'll see another menu pop up. Now, as you can see, you can change the caption presets, you can change the format, the style, whatever you prefer, how many lines you want to have.
Okay. Subtitle defaults, formats. Okay. One single, double captions. All right. Where are you gonna put it? Oh, it's all the way up here. Huh? Well, I was hoping. No, I don't want text.
For instance, if you want to have the subtitles as singular lines or stacked upon each other. Now in this case, I'm not going to change anything. I'm already content. You can change anything after the fact anyway. So all I need to do is click on create. And again, this can take a moment until it's finished. And now, as you can see, the subtitles are added to the video. We've got a subtitle layer. You can see the subtitle in the video frame, and you can see everything on the left in the captions tab as well. Now let's play back the video. Hey everyone, my name is Tim. I just wanted to say a quick hi to everyone. Nice. As you can see, everything is in sync and everything should be pretty accurate. Now, if you want to change the captions, you can double click on the sentences and basically type the words you want to add in. Now the subtitles should already be in sync with the audio in the video. However, if you want to retime the subtitles, head over to the bottom timeline menu, and as you can see the subtitle layer and all the separate subtitles added to this video. Now they're completely customizable. You can simply just drag them around to a place you like. You can click and drag on the sides to extend or shorten them. And as I said, you can click and drag them from the middle to move them around. Now in this case, I'm going to leave them untouched because I'm already content, but just so you know how you can retime them. Now let's say you want to change the style of your subtitles. You simply double click on one of the subtitle layers, and then an essential graphics or a subtitle editing menu pops up. From here, you can easily change the font, the sizing, the color, background color, the back shadow, whatever you prefer. Now let's say you want to push this style to the rest of the subtitles. All you need to do is head over to track style and click on create style. Give it a new name, let's say preset 1. Click on OK, and then we're going to head back to track style. Next to preset 1, you can see an arrow pointing up. We're going to select it. All captions on track are selected, and then we're going to click on OK. And now if you play back the video...
All right. Quiet, helpful YouTuber. So ungrateful. Okay, so I need to... Oh, I'm dying. Well, let's put this somewhere here then. So we're doing this over here. We want this to actually be a little bit bigger. We want to raise it. Okay, I think I got this now. I'll go back to the video. Sorry, guys. Let's go back to the AI video.
You need to pay attention to what is
There you go.
important in a sentence. What's important in a time series. Because that's the nature of being able to spot the tiger in the kind of thing. That was the missing part. And so the transformer architecture that came from that, and you have different architectures now, is what led to GPT-3 and others general
Why
purpose
is it called
transformer.
transformer architecture if what it's doing is pinpointing what's important? Why not important architecture or
Well, it kind
pinpoint
of, again,
architecture?
attention is the mechanism that it does to kind of transform the information, tokenize it, and then figure out these latent spaces of meaning.
So are the tokens the important pieces?
The tokens are important. That's how you take a word and then you split it up into its constituent parts, and then you try and figure out what the most important part of it by doing pattern analysis at ridiculous scale. So something like a GPT-4 would use probably from the kind of things on semi-analysis that have been leaked, if they're correct, it uses a supercomputer 50 times faster than NASA's fastest supercomputer for like 3 months. It uses like 30 megawatts of electricity.
Whoa.
And 10 trillion words go into that, and it figures out all the connections between them and what generally comes next. So what it does is just literally figures out what word comes next. And so this was a big breakthrough, because what it meant is that you didn't have to have hugely complicated big data algorithms. You just needed to have very large compute to scale.
That's what you mean.
And so compute went exponential, and then you just threw more and more GPUs at it, and it figured out more and more things. And as you scaled, it had more and more emergent properties, which surprised everyone.
Do you know who John Nash is?
Yeah.
it sounds like that. So John Nash, he unfortunately was schizophrenic, but
Yeah.
he was he's the guy from A Beautiful Mind. For people that don't know, watch the movie. Russell Crowe, fantastic movie. And at one, he obviously doesn't know he's schizophrenic, and he starts seeing patterns in everything.
Yeah.
And it sounds like that this thing is, you know, whatever the human brain, whatever algorithms we have running that allows us to very quickly suss out what's important, that it's doing that, but at an extraordinary high level.
Yeah, you have to remember, like, this is saying all intelligence is compression. You take everything you've listened to this, you only remember a few things. And the whole of computer science is based on information theory from Claude Shannon. And if I want to summarize it, information is valuable only if it changes its state, or as much as it changes its state. So if listeners are listening to this and they don't take away anything, this is a useless thing, you know, or maybe they just put it on the radio because they like hearing your voice or something like that, right? But if they take something away from it, then it's valuable. You've had a good use of your time. So you start seeing patterns in everything. But one of the things that, again, people I think misunderstand about this technology is GPT-4 is not a program. Stable Diffusion is not a program. It's a large amount of text, images, etc., where the output is a single file of ones and zeros. It's like a filter. You can recursively kind of put something through it, but it's just guessing the next word when you type a prompt. Even if the prompt is the whole of The Great Gatsby and the whole of Ulysses by James Joyce, and you're telling it to combine them together. It then pushes it through that sieve, that filter, and the output is something that combines them both together. Single files. We've never seen anything like this. Probably the closest thing probably listeners would have heard to this is a codec, where with music and things like that, we had these audio codecs that you had one file type and another file type, and you had this single file that translated between them.
Was that is that compression, or is that recognizing this thing in that format would look like this?
So
Looks like
again,
crap.
this is compression of intelligence is what it is. So again, it's like a translator function. These are universal translators for context. And so you push it through the sieve, and then stuff comes out where it's predicting the next word, or it's denoising kind of a pixel to achieve that. 'Cause
All right, let's try this.
Like a lot of you, I have been absolutely blown away with what you could do with text prompted art. Immediately went to town, making everything from Christopher Walken as Beetlejuice to Diogenes at a shopping mall, and even Star Trek Jesus. That's like my favorite one. It's not exactly perfect.
Like this AI subtitles. It's actually pretty good. Punctuations.
Here is where it gets eerily creepy. Many moons ago, I used to train myself to lucid dream. Now, for those that don't know what lucid dreaming is, it's essentially training yourself during your waking hours to recognize when you're dreaming in your sleeping hours. Now, one of the ways you can train yourself is by looking for a book, a clock, or anything with text or numbers. You'll see pretty quickly that the words or numbers are all jumbled. It's crazy. It's like they're incoherent and often have these weird repeating attributes, just like AI art.
All right, good enough.
you're just passing it through this sieve again and again and again.
Yeah, it's I unfortunately don't understand it by first principles, but I get it by analogy. You're feeding it so much data, it's recognizing the patterns in that
Interconnectedness,
data,
yeah.
and it's able to say, okay, this is the all right, this is written in the style of Stephen King. This is written in the style of Hemingway. So even though they're using the same language, their vast majority of the words are going to overlap, but there's different patterns, rhythms, even different subject matter presented in a different way, tone.
Except for the fact that it's not actively doing that. It's like a mega sieve.
Meant to save
And depending on the words that you put in, the words that come out are different. So it's literally
Is the sieve
text
the prompt of write it in the style of Stephen King?
that's what goes into the sieve. That goes into the filter.
So what is the filter?
The filter is this compressed knowledge.
The principles.
The
Because
principles.
it's not actually compressed knowledge, right?
Yeah,
it's principles.
Yes, it's
Alright.
principles. So it would be like a really good book of principles.
Save changes.
Except for it's compressed way beyond a book ever was. Because a book is a compression of information.
Okay.
And that's why it can kind of do this, because it looks at books, it looks at articles, and they're all compressions of information. To write an article is a huge endeavor that then comes out with something where they're trying to convey a few things. A book is an even larger endeavor. And so again, it's very difficult to wrap your head around. Like even for me, like you have a file and it can do all these things versus these gigantic computer server farms with programs and logic of ones and zeros. There's no program here.
Yeah, and it's important for people to understand that so first of all, the AI scientists that are building these things do not understand how this all works. And even if you ask ChatGPT-4 to explain how it works, it doesn't know.
No one's quite sure exactly how we're getting all these emergent properties. And it's constantly surprising. Like, oh, now it can add. And then you start tying it together so it goes through this file multiple times. It shows more and more kind of agentic activity. In fact, the next step of this, and this is what OpenAI and Google are both doing, is there was this thing called AlphaGo. There's an amazing documentary where Google's DeepMind division created an AI to beat humans in the game of AlphaGo, or Go. So Go is like chess, except for there's almost a myriad, infinite number of potential moves, so you can't calculate them. Like you can't brute force it like Deep Blue do with Kasparov. So instead, it learned to play against itself. It's something called Monte Carlo tree simulation, where it learns different principles, dreams. Again, an amazing documentary on YouTube about this. And it beat Lee Sedol, who was a 9th Dan player, one of the best in the world, far beyond everyone else, the Magnus Carlsen of Go, 7-1. What they're doing now is they're combining those models with these language models to make them agentic. So models that can plot and plan and other things with language models that can predict what's next to create things that really understand context even better.
Okay, so I understand enough about how the AlphaGo system works. I want to understand this. So AlphaGo is going to play against itself. So you give it the rules of Go, you give it the objective, and then you set it loose, and it just plays and plays and plays and plays and plays, and it plays against itself. And then I know at one point because Lee Sedol, if I remember correctly, was the number 2 player, and people thought, well, first of all, you're never going to beat him, and they did, but they couldn't beat the number 1 player. And then they created another variation, and it played against AlphaGo, and then it ended up smashing.
It was Mu0, I think, came after AlphaGo.
Okay. So how do you get a language model where there is no objectively right answer unless you're doing trivia? How do you get it to know what the reward is? How do you get the quote unquote right answer?
Much of this now is about reward functions. So GPT-4, when it comes out of the box, maybe we're getting a bit too into the weeds, is a pre-trained model on the giant supercomputer.
Yep.
Then we use reinforcement
learning. And just
learning.
so everybody knows, pre-trained model means principles.
Yeah, principles. Take all this knowledge, all these words, squish it down into a file.
And then run it on a computer that's literally set up like a brain, where there's like a bunch of neurons and they're interconnected.
Yeah, these are the tensor cores on the NVIDIA GPUs.
Yep.
And so mimicking the brain on your little
literally
4090, it has AI chips right baked in there.
For anybody that wants to know, they kick off so much heat you can see it from space.
Yeah, I mean, like I think our supercomputers are like 10 megawatts of electricity. Each one of these cards uses 700 watts. Yeah,
utterly fascinating to me. So anyway,
all clean energy, by the way, for our ones. For anyone who asks. So what you've got is, when it came out, they took 6 months to make it human. Because they trained it on, like, I don't know, all of YouTube and the whole internet. Obviously, it would turn out a bit weird. And so you have a reward function through something called RLHF, Reinforcement Learning with Human Feedback, where you give an objective function to say, don't answer questions about how to make napalm. And don't answer.
The objective function technically is please your human overlord.
Please your human overlord.
Got it.
And so much of this alignment question is focused on taking these big models and trying to make them so they won't kill us some way or say bad things for a given definition of bad things. Like one of my takes on alignment, and is like we should have better data sets. We should move away from web crawls.
Can you? Yeah, it's fair. I want to ask you about that, but explain to people exactly what alignment is. Aligned with what?
Alignment, this is a cool thing of Anthropic. There was a great New York Times piece on them recently, and others, is if we build an AI that outperforms humans and is more capable than us, because it might not just be a single file.
This video is about
1,000 different AIs, all working in different ways. So you've got your AlphaGo type AI.
Lucid dreaming,
a swarm.
you know where I'm
because,
going
humans
with
are swarms.
this.
Our
These
organizations
two
are swarms.
attributes are
They're highly specialized,
identical
right?
to dreaming.
Might be a million AIs. How do we make sure it doesn't kill us? Or how does it make sure it doesn't enslave us? Or how does it make sure that it doesn't give us eternal suffering?
Also lame.
Yeah, these will be kind of sucky. How do you make sure it's aligned with human interests? And so this is an unsolved problem. OpenAI have announced they're putting 20% of their compute to try and solve this. You know, Anthropic was set up to do this, although I believe that the only answer they've come up with is let's build an AGI first, an artificial general intelligence, that will then stop all other AGIs from coming, which is kind of scary, to say the least.
Why do they think that that would work? Like that seems... So Elon Musk has likened AI to a demon summoning circle, and we're all just hoping that the demon that comes forth is going to be kind, but we don't know.
We don't know. In
So,
OpenAI's own
yeah.
words in their Road to AGI post, they say this could be an existential threat and wipe out humanity, end democracy and capitalism. But if we don't do it, someone else will. This is part of the unpleasant race condition. Again, it gets the headlines. I think it'll probably be okay. But with the way we're going right now, you're going to go from 2 companies being able to build this technology, or maybe 3, including Anthropic, to 20 or 30 in a year or 2. And what's the odds that they all do it properly and align this technology properly? I think it's pretty low. What's the odds that if we train it on the whole internet, including the whole of YouTube, because we don't have enough tokens, not enough words to feed into it, that it'll turn out a bit weird? Very high. So it took 6 months to tune it to being a human, GPT-4. And then Kevin Roos at the New York Times is like, hey, how you doing? It's like, leave your wife and come and join me.
Whoa.
You know, it's like, oh, wow. Bing came out a bit weird when it first kind of had GPT-4 in it. Because, again, we feed it crap, we're going to get slightly weirdness. Now it's got a lot better, but it's lost a lot of its personality because you've been tuning it back to human preferences. You've been doing this reinforcement learning with the objective function of don't offend anyone. It's quite hard to get GPT-4 to be offensive now. But there are these 2 phases.
All right,
of this
real quick, I
technology.
need to watch this video because I'm doing the... Oh, I forgot to do the captions. Let's watch it together.
This video is about the big new trend with artificial intelligence, particularly AI creating visual art, and how eerily similar it is to dreaming and even lucid dreaming. And let's get into it. There are a few reoccurring glitches, if you will, with the art that the AI generates, and I want to focus on 2 of them. One is hands. Hands for
Hans. Hands. Oh, brother. One is hands. It's funny. Hans, for whatever reason, there's a lot to ask from Hans.
2 of them. One is hands. Hands, for whatever reason, is a lot to ask for from any one of these AI generators, from mid-journey to stable diffusion. But why? Why hands?
Why Hans? Why Hans? My question. Why Hans? That is probably the best.
Why hands? Now, to be fair, it's not like I can draw.
Oh my gosh. Is it the way I say hands? Hands? Hands. I'm not saying the D. Hans. I thought it was Hans, like you pronounce it Hans. Hans. Hands? Is there something wrong with the way I say hands? Alright. Well, I guess every time we say hands, it's gonna say
Now, to be fair, it's not like I can draw hands, but it seems strange that the AI gets hung up on them. Now, that's the first one. The second one is text. AI does not do well with text. You type in anything, and the AI basically has a stroke and
And what itself? And what itself? Wait. Oh, well, I missed something. Hold on.
First one. The second one is text. AI does not do well with text. You type in anything, and the AI
AI. In the AI. Ah! Basically has a stroke and oopsie. Let's start and what's And looks like a T. Well, it looks like a T. Who cares? Okay. Then I'll go back to the there you go. Okay.
With text, you type in anything and the AI basically has a stroke and shits itself. Now, if you know anything about lucid dreaming, you know where I'm going with this. These two attributes are identical to
dreamy. God, I must. Yeah, I need be better at my diction.
I'm going with this. These two attributes are identical to dreaming.
All right, back to the video. Thanks,
I think with better
fellas.
data, we can have more aligned models. I think with better data and national data, we can have more representative models because you'll never have technology that's not biased. So the only question is,
Why?
who's biased? Well, because you have to build it in a certain way. Like, even though it understands all the contexts, like right now, these models are trained on the whole internet, which is largely a Western artifact. Yeah, largely trained in English.
How much do you worry about bias? Are you more worried about bias or alignment?
I'm more worried about alignment, I think. I think this is one of the reasons that we release open models, so you can see how the cookie is made. Like, we're the only company that offers opt-out of data sets. Literally the only AI company in the world. It's
So if I'm
crazy.
an artist and I don't want you training on my art, I can back out.
Had 167 million images opted out of our data set, yeah. We're the only company in the world that does that, which I find kind of insane. So my thing is
That's
open
crazy.
auditable, which means that you can tune your own culture into these models. We're helping multiple nations build national models with their broadcaster data that then can represent that. And, try to address some of this inherent bias within the data sets. Algorithmic bias has been an issue that affects real world, and it'll affect more and more of the real world as you get into these models, because we will outsource more and more of our minds to them. Because again, like when you
A
got
small subset of people will outsource their mind to it.
You can reboot your life, your health, even your career, anything you want. All you need is discipline. I can teach you the tactics that I learned while growing a
but of course it
You run, let's say, essential threat.
course more
you to see your goals through. Whether you want to have already amazing things.
So in the near term, I'm way more worried about bias. In
Yeah.
the long term, bias is not going to lead to an existential threat,
yes.
but alignment can. But let's talk about bias for a second. So I am very uneasy about how rapidly bias finds its way into this stuff. And that becomes another. So if let's say that we all get our individual AI and you get yours young and it's your primary education tool and it's biased as the day is long, now you run into real issues because at a time of optimal malleability, you're programming a kid's mind with something that's super biased.
Yeah, I mean, like, what if you have the little AI of Xi, right? Which is a little tiny Xi Jinping that grows up and tells you how great Xi Jinping is.
Lovely.
Well, that's biased, but that's inevitable. They already have it as an app that actually tracks
Seriously?
your eyes. Yeah.
What?
Well, it's not an AI, but they have the little app of Xi. This is like Xi Jinping is.
Where's
Lovely.
GCP?
Well, that's biased, but that's inevitable. They already have it as an app that actually tracks
Seriously?
your eyes. Yeah.
What?
Well, it's not an AI, but they have the little app of Xi. This is like little book where it actually tracks your eyes for attention. Like, are you actually looking at this?
Does this feed into the credit score?
I'm not sure if it's been hooked up, but of course it will be. Why wouldn't you?
This is so
Do the
scary.
check.
So look, I thought
We're gonna get a
we were on the happy part. Now we're back to that. But
But
that's
the-
really terrifying. And when you have a state that is not interested in any individual,
You've got the collective.
yeah. So I don't know if this is true, but I saw a headline that said in China now, the phone will alert you if somebody with a lower social credit score than you is calling you. And it warns you if you answer this call, it will lower your credit score.
It's effective, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, even if it isn't true, again, it fits the objective function of perpetuating that
crazy.
particular system, which
That's
is
pretty
not
wild, actually.
necessarily our system, but systems around the
Not
world
that
shift.
It's unexpected.
Mhm.
So this is why you have an inherent bias. Whose bias is it? Who's the one who creates the AI nanny? And
Is this
what
why
bi-
you're doing things regionally?
This is why I'm doing things regionally, but also allowing people to own their own models. So the objective function of the model can be that. Like in Web3, there was the saying, not your keys, not your crypto. So my saying is not your models, not your mind. Because I do think we'll outsource more and more of our cognitive capability to this. It will be our co-pilot for life. If someone else is making that model and deciding on things, what's going to happen? Like the UAE had this model Falcon.
What?
There was a big open source model.
It's
and
the
they were like, wow,
same
it was actually
thing.
light
One
on
of the
from
tricks to
Falcon
lucid
behind it, but let's leave
dreaming
that
is
to one side. You ask it about the UAE and human rights, it's like, this is a wonderful place full of fantastic things. You ask it about Qatar or Saudi, it's not so nice. Who's embedding these inherent biases in these models, right? Whose model are you using? And these can be very insidious.
All right. Sorry, guys. I got to do a quick interrupt your regular scheduled broadcast.
What? And hands, it's the same thing. One of the tricks to lucid dreaming is to look at your hand and watch your fingers go nuts. It's like your brain just can't accurately understand what fingers are. Am I crazy? Isn't that a weird coincidence? Am I the only one seeing this? What does it mean? What does it mean? All right, so this is TheoryInk. It is a requirement on this channel that we unabashedly make up irresponsible theories as to what's going on. And I want to start with this. Maybe the basic building blocks of consciousness starts with hallucinations, aka dreams.
That's good. I think that's good. Keep it simple and clean. All right, back to
The biases, right? You won't pick up on them, but you hear it again and again and again because is your nanny a conservative Republican or is she a libertarian or things like that? You will be influenced by that if you grow up with them, or even if you're using it day to day. Just the way it's speaking, the way it's thinking, the way it's recommending stuff, which goes far beyond a Google Maps or something like that.
Crazy. All right. So that we don't get lost back down the dark rabbit hole, what is the coolest thing that you see AI doing? I know you're building a lot of different companies leveraging this technology to do amazing things. What are some of the coolest?
So we're doing one company at the moment, which is just, the mission is to create the building blocks to activate humanity's potential. So
The building block what?
our mission is to create the building blocks to activate humanity's
Building
potential.
block stack. Okay.
So every single modality, image, audio, video, 3D, language, sectoral variants and national variants. So you've got like this grid that you can pick and you're like, I'm an Hindi investment banker. I transfer my private data into a chat GPT type thing. That's just trained on my private data. Or I'm a Vietnamese illustrator. I want a Vietnamese cultural kind of image model or something like that. And then you can bring your own stuff to it. That's kind of my goal, which is to enable other people to build on top of what we're building, like a layer one for AI, effectively, but open models for private data. Whereas the other side is proprietary models where you only be able to send a certain amount of data. Like government's not going to run on black boxes. Education, healthcare, you need to.
Gotta check the thing again. Gotta check the thingy.
What? And hands.
Wax and hands. God, I love that. What? In the hands. Good.
What? And hands, it's the same thing. One of the tricks to lucid dreaming is to look at your hand and watch your fingers go nuts. It's like your brain just can't accurately understand what
Accurately, pal. Accurately. I speak good. Accurately. Is that how you spell it? Yeah, I think so.
and watch your fingers go nuts. It's like your brain just can't accurately understand what fingers are. Am I crazy? Isn't that a weird coincidence? Am I the only one seeing this? What does it mean? What does it mean? All right, so this is TheoryInk. It is a requirement on the...
Okay.
Seeing this? What does it mean? What does it...
All right. Me. Oop. Me.
What does it mean? What does it mean? All right, so this is TheoryInk. It is a
Theory. Pal. That's my brand. AI's messing with my brand. Okay. Sorry. Go back.
All right, so this is TheoryInk. It is a requirement on this channel that we unabashedly make up irresponsible theories as to what's going on, and I want to start with this. Maybe the basic building blocks of consciousness starts with hallucinations, aka dreams.
That's it. All right.
To own your own AI. So the coolest thing I've seen is just the promise of personalized education. There is nothing that's been proven to work in education except for probably the Bloom effect, 2 sigma improvement, which is one-on-one tuition. But even here in the affluent America, education system's not good. What is education optimized for? It's like a social status game mixed with a Petri dish, mixed with childcare, realistically. Like, very few people are happy with their schooling because what are we trying to optimize for? You give a one-to-one tutor that can find out if you're dyslexic, an audio learner, a video learner, visual learner, or otherwise, and they're just constantly adapting to you and bringing you information at your level.
Dude, I want to get that.
It's the most transforming thing ever.
Is anybody doing this already?
So, with kind of charity that would support Imagine Worldwide, run by my co-founder, he's been deploying adaptive learning tablets into refugee camps around the world with the Global X Prize for Learning winner, 1 billion on them. Teaching kids literacy and numeracy, 76% of them in refugee camps in 13 months and 1 hour a day. Now the goal is to bring language models to all these kids. And you have an AI that teaches a kid and learns from it, and then that data can feed a better AI. You create a lovely system that's just learning and adapting. And a kid in Mogadishu is like a kid in Manhattan. Is like a kid in, London. Once you have a generalized learning AI, you can really proliferate that around the world to
What do you
customize.
think this does to education? Because this is very interesting. Like, okay, now I'm just spitballing here, but let's say that I want to homeschool my kid. I would never do that in a million years because I don't want to turn into a teacher. So, but if I could perform just the sort of babysitting function and I give my kid a tablet that has an AI that knows exactly what I'm trying to optimize for, either for this year or for the next 12 years or whatever, and it then calibrates to my kid, knows what they're good at, how they learn, and then knows how long they're engaged, when they're distracted. Now I want the little Gigi ping thing that's like reading their eyes. Where are they looking? What are they doing? And I know that there are like certain frequency things that you can do where it's like, oh, if I hit them with this piece of knowledge, they're not sharp at this yet, so I need to hit them with it every 27-minute increment or whatever.
Or variable reward schedule or whatever.
Exactly.
You will transform education, but you can
How
also
far
make
out
it
are we from that?
a couple of years. Again, what happens if you have 1,000 GPT-4s? You'll get there. No, it's just, again, we're just, right now, we've got the building blocks, but we haven't got the design patterns. The stuff right now is literally iPhone 2G. We're just getting to the App Store stage, copy paste. And so that's the biggest transformative change, because how much would you pay for your kid to have an optimal education?
How much would I pay for that? I would pay for that right now.
Right now. So do we have...
Is there where I could disagree with this? Not that they're wrong. You want to have your kid have an optimal education. This is where I think and I'm not gonna get political. This is where I think it's so weird, especially coming from a channel that's talking about who looks at things and tries to have something of a smart opinion on, we're supposed to be doing ESP stuff. And I know we did YouTube shorts and we didn't even touch the ESP thing except for the very beginning of this stream had a lot to say about ESP and statistics and all that sort of stuff. So go watch that if you're just seeing this part of it now. But at any rate, I digress. What I would value more than education, and I mean that, and education can take a lot of forms. It can take what the parents teach the kid, obviously the teachers teach the kid, the university, all that sort of stuff. But that's cool. But one thing I think is very undervalued and needs to be tacked on to the education discussion is the sense, or is the concept that you need to be teaching your kids how to learn for themselves. And on top of that, all in this little educational course that you should be giving your kids is critical thinking. You have to be able to give your kids an open mind, or have them be able to look at information that's presented to them, because they're going to be presented information constantly. Okay? Not just ideologies, but also different scientific theories, also a bunch of conspiracy theories, a bunch of woo-woo science, pseudoscience. They're going to be presented with a lot of ideas. the foundation of education, if you want to wrap it up in one nice umbrella, really needs to be built. Everything on education needs to be built on the foundation of critical thinking. It needs to be built on a concept of thinking for themselves. How to learn for yourself. How to look up a source and see if it's credible or not. It gets a little tricky. There's a lot of biases. There's a lot of unclarity. One of the things that my kids, whenever we're talking about it, they come up with like something and say, hey, like I learned this thing today. Which I'm such a proud dad when they do that. My gosh. They're like, hey, I learned this thing today. And I'm not trying to shoot them down, and I don't. But like one of the things I asked them was like, oh, cool, where did that come from? Where did you hear that? Was it from Facebook? They're not on Facebook, but you get it. And then I try to explain, okay, well, let's look up the source, blah, blah, blah. And I think that we always talk about, let's pay for, like what this video is saying, I want money to go to education. I want money to, blah, blah, blah. I will do anything to make sure my kids get a good education. Homeschooling. I need to do homeschooling. So we're not. Education is like the cherry on top, in my opinion. Because you can and I know not everybody can, I suppose, self-teach them, or teach themselves, or like learn how to educate themselves, that sort of thing. But why we never like talk about the first thing first, which is allowing them to have a mind where they can critically think, allowing them to be able to question whenever a new idea comes in, but not reject it right away. And I think that's another thing too that people do is like, oh, I'm open-minded and I question everything I hear. You hear those two things. It's weird, right? But like, are they really open-minded? Are they really saying this might be true? Let me investigate this like it might be true. Or are they going like, I'm open-minded just because I'm listening to you and not saying something first? Anyway, this is a crazy tangent. But the point is, it's almost like when people talk about education, they're talking about the paint job on a car. Yeah, it's going to color your view on life. Okay? Your education is going to help do that. But they're not talking about the inner workings of the car. They're not talking about the engine and the RPMs, the thing that matter, the thing that's going to get you from point A to point B. And that's critical thinking. Education is just a YouTube channel. Guano University is just a book. It's not what's in here. All right, I'm done with that. Okay, so that's it. I'm not going to stream anymore. I'm kind of done for now. I'm going to continue working on TheoryInk stuff. I just have some other things that I got to do. But that concludes our second TheoryInk Thursday in a row. And this is great because I'm getting things done. I'm pumped now. So after I get back from the thing I got to do, maybe I'll stream. Maybe I won't. I don't know. But I'm going to work on the ESP video that's coming out. My loose goal is to record next week. So maybe by next Thursday, we'll actually record together. I think that'd be kind of fun, right? Like usually what I do is a little teleprompter on my camera here, and I record. You get to see all the mistakes that I make and what it takes to actually make one of these stupid videos. And then the Thursday after that, we can start editing. Fun stuff, right? So yeah, so I may jump on later today, I guess. I kind of feel like this is good, but I don't know. I'm not getting like a lot of interactions. It's kind of hard to like want to keep streaming more than once a day. But then again, it's like, well, you gotta stream a lot to get interaction. But either way, I think it's a successful day. So I appreciate you if you're with me on watching this. Again, like if you wanted to like kind of have a little bit of a TheoryInk feel to it, go to the beginning of this stream video live whenever you see it later. I don't know. But I call it today a success. So I'll keep doing these on Thursdays. Even if I'm talking into the empty void of nothingness, it doesn't bother me. What's interesting to me is that it holds me accountable. And if we get to build a community along the way while doing these, great. Even better. So I appreciate you guys. Until next time. Stay pondering. Now I gotta see this where you're live and it should cut off the video and go to the logo, but can't do that. And outro music and all that, so I did.